Do you know what? I'm going to start this episode by talking about a not so low-key adulting moment that happened to me this week, because I feel like it's necessary that on this podcast we talk about the good, the bad, and everything in between. So if you have been listening to the episodes that I've been putting out over the last few weeks, then you'll know that I am in the process of practicing for my driving test. I'm 22 years old. I started to learn in a manual when I was 17 and very quickly kind of realised it just wasn't really for me. And this year I've picked driving back up because I just feel like I'm at a better time, like mentally, to be putting effort and like time into learning to drive. And also, like, I have a boyfriend that doesn't live super close to me, so I can't keep relying on him to just keep driving over to me. So basically I have been driving in an automatic this year, and the other day I did a mock test for the very first time with my driving instructor and I failed, which is just so fantastic because my test is literally in a week. In 1 week I am going to know whether I can drive on my own or whether I'm just not going to be able to do that, and I'm going to be back to being a learner, which is so fun. But also, like, the mistake that I made is so annoying. It's so annoying because it's so stupid. Basically, really, really long story short, I was coming up to a junction to pull out to go left on the road, and someone pulled into the road, but she completely like cut my corner, so like she came onto my side of the road. So I was like, oh my god, what is this woman doing? So I like pulled the car over kind of to the left and then went up on the curb as I was going around the corner. And I knew, and it was so annoying because I always thought that like if I was going to fail my driving test in any way, shape or form, then it was going to be like parking and a manoeuvre. But I smashed that, so it's not going to happen again. And the stupid thing is, I can drive. I know that I can drive. I just need to stop putting so much pressure on myself and overthinking situations, because I was literally driving with my dad today and I kept asking him questions and I was like, I know the answer to this because I know how to drive. I know the road rules and everything like that. So it was really a frustrating situation. But here we are, we survived. We came out the other side and now I have a good mentality and I'm not going to fail again. So amen to that. Also, if you listen to my episode with my boyfriend Charlie, then you might remember that we spoke about how Charlie had never seen Me Before You, which is literally one of my favourite films of all time. I was just so baffled that he hadn't seen it. He'd seen like clips of it on social media, but I guess it's just not really the sort of film that he would sit down to like watch on his own. But the other day he said to me, right, let's sit down and watch Me Before You. So today's Saturday, it was yesterday, Friday night. It was just the two of us home and he was like, let's watch it. So we did. As much as I love it and I know everything that happens, I just forgot how devastating it is, which is so crazy because the story is like quite devastating, but also it's like kind of a happy ending. But I literally bawled my eyes out. I'm sitting there literally crying next to him for like 15 minutes. And then I was laying in bed, he was cleaning his teeth and he could hear me like sniffling and he was like, are you all right? I was like, yeah, I'm getting there. I'm just pulling my emotions together. So basically, if you haven't seen Me Before You before, take this as your sign. Not everyone is like me. I think I'm feeling hormonal, which is why I'm feeling very emotional. But yeah, it is a really good film and the acting in it is so sweet. I've never read the book, and as a romance reader, I'm appalled with myself as well. So please accept my sincere apologies for not reading that book. I have it on my shelf somewhere. I'm trying to find it, like looking over to my bookshelf, but I know it's on there somewhere. I bought it secondhand. I went into like a charity shop and it was like £2 or something. So I did that and I haven't read it. I think as well because I obviously know the story of Me Before You, that I'm like, would I enjoy the book as much, like having watched the film first? If I had read the book first and like watched the film after, I might feel differently. It's the same as like, do you remember when The Hating Game by Sally Thorne came out? I'd read the book and then I watched the film, but that was a weird one because I actually preferred the film. I didn't really enjoy the book that much. What other adaptations have there been? Daisy Jones and the Six. Preferred the TV show, didn't like the book. I thought that the writing in the book was odd. I couldn't get my head around it. I didn't like it. Anyway, I have rambled so much. I think that we should just get on with the episode. Hey everyone, it's Mads. Welcome to or welcome back to Lowkey Adulting. If you're new around here, then thank you so much for joining us. Please do subscribe. This is the podcast where we talk about anything, everything, nothing is off limits, anything goes. Today is gonna be an interesting one. It's basically a little bit of a story time. For anyone that doesn't know me, I am 22 years old. I have been working full-time in my job for 3.5 years. I went to uni for 6 weeks and dropped out. And this episode is basically going to be my experience with uni, how it went, why I dropped out, how I got to where I am now, and kind of what that path looked like for me, because it's not the path that I thought I was going to take, but here we are. If you do enjoy this episode, if you're watching on YouTube, make sure to give it a big thumbs up. Definitely subscribe if you haven't already, and let's get on with the episode. I feel like a good place to start with this would be when I was back in college. I didn't even think that uni was kind of on the cards for me, because I've never been a very academic person. If I wanted to do well in a subject, then I had to put a lot of time, effort, revision into it. It got to the time in the year when tutors were talking about how you should probably start writing your personal statement and giving tips and advice on how to write them and what certain lecturers are looking for and everything like that. And I kind of just went with the flow and was like, do you know what? I don't really know what I want to do with my life, but I'm going to write a personal statement and I'm going to research some universities and some university courses, and that is what I did. I'll be so real. I have been creating content and filming and editing videos and YouTube videos and everything like that since I was about 10. I did it all before I started secondary school, and then in like year 7 or year 8, that was when I started my first YouTube channel. So I had been doing all things content creation for a very, very long time. And I just thought to myself that, well, I like filming, I like editing, and I like doing things on a computer. So that obviously means that I want to do filmmaking. Obviously, because where did that logic even come from? So suddenly there I was researching film and TV, filmmaking, film production, film and media, all of those sort of courses. Why? I don't know. I'm asking myself the same question, and this was me that made these decisions like 4 or 5 years ago. Lo and behold, I wrote my personal statement. I researched loads of unis. Also, I was researching all of these universities during lockdown, and obviously that meant that I couldn't physically go and look at any universities. So I feel like that was the first issue within itself. How can you know where you want to spend your next part of your education without going to view it and going to look at where you're going to be studying, going to look at different accommodations that you could potentially be staying in? I literally feel like I went into it blind, which is why in the April before I started uni, so April 2021, my parents and I made a trip down to Bristol because my firm choice was the University of the West of England, which is Bristol UE. And we stayed there for a couple of nights and basically just explored the town. We couldn't actually go and see the uni, but we did go and have a look at where I was potentially going to be staying. I think the place, like my accommodation, maybe. I feel like I remember that happening. But obviously I did get to see the city. I just didn't get to see the university. So it was nice to go on a little trip with my parents before I started uni. But I just couldn't look at the uni, which was really frustrating. And I do sometimes wonder to myself, if COVID didn't happen and lockdown didn't happen and you could go and view universities and accommodations and everything, I do wonder, like, would my life be different? Would I have gone to a different uni? Would I have studied something different? Like, you just never know. But I feel like I really went into uni blind. Also, as I said, the situation is just so unlike me. Like, the concept of university, if you had like the concept of university and the sort of person that you would think that like would thrive at university, I'm like the other end of the scale. Like, I don't like drinking, I don't like partying, I don't do late nights, I'm not interested in going to pre-drinks or anything like that. I just wanted to go to uni to study, but like I didn't even care for the course. Like, it's such a baffling time to like look back on, because the whole situation just wasn't right. And I'm going to dive into that. I moved to uni in the September of 2021, and that was a wild, daunting, crazy experience. The first night was great. I got to know some of my flatmates. Also, one of my really close friends was literally in the flat down the hall from me. So that was really, really nice. Harvey, if you're listening, I literally wouldn't have been able to do my 6 weeks at uni if it wasn't for you. My flat was fine. My friends were great. I was all good in that sense, but honestly, it was the day that I had my first lecture when I realised that it just was not the right decision, and I was literally questioning everything. I was like, why have I done this? I am stuck here for the next 3 years and I don't want to do it. I don't want to do filmmaking. And also, this is something else. So because it was kind of like COVID times where like we were kind of just coming out the other end of COVID, but lectures were still mostly online. I went in like for lectures actually onto campus probably like twice a week. And bearing in mind lectures are split into like morning and afternoon ones, I probably went onto campus twice a week. In my opinion, you cannot learn filmmaking from afar. I need to physically be operating cameras. I need to be editing in like an editing suite. I'm not like, it's not that much theory in my mind to be able to like be a filmmaker. Like, yes, obviously there are elements of theory that you need to know, but to be a good filmmaker, you need to be practically, physically doing the filmmaking. And we just weren't really doing that for the time that I was there. And I just think that I very quickly realised that the course wasn't for me, which is fine. Everyone has those moments, and I know so many people that change courses but stay at the same university. And I did try to do that. And for context, in my A-levels, I'm so proud of myself. I got 2 A stars then an A. For my course, you needed A, B, B. So I got higher grades than you needed to get into that course. This is gonna, like, there is context to this. I'm not just gloating about my grades, that you'll see. There was a course that I was interested in moving to called media production, I think it was. I knew a couple of people that were doing it and were really enjoying it. They were telling me about the sort of things that they were studying, and it was very much more practical and social, like social media wise, which I was like, why didn't I do this in the first place? I remember at the time they were doing podcasting, and instantly I was just like, yeah, sign me up for that. So I emailed all of the people that I needed to try and change courses, and I emailed the course manager, like the head lecturer, and he was like, I've just had a look at your personal statement and your portfolio and whatever, and like, we think that you'd be a really great fit. And I was like, fantastic. He was like, let me just speak to a few people internally, because there's space on the course. Your grades that you got for your A-levels are like higher than what you needed. I'm pretty sure you needed 3 Bs. That's why that was the context. You needed 3 Bs to get onto this course. So in my mind, I was like, there's space on the course. I got higher grades than I needed to. Why would they not let me on? Something really weird was happening. Something that felt a little bit dodgy, and to this day I still don't really know what the dodginess was, but I got an email to basically say, we couldn't let you onto the course. And I was like, okay, can you let me know why? Because I've been told that there's space. I got higher grades than I needed to get. I'm not really sure what the issue is. Also, if you're listening to this outside of the UK, I'm not sure how it works in other countries, but over here, if you want to change your uni course, you usually have to do it before the October half term, or like before the end of your first term, which I was well within that time. So I asked them why they wouldn't let me on, and they came back saying, we aren't able to give specific feedback, but it was likely to do with the course being full. I'm like, well, that's not true, because I know that the course isn't full, because the course manager told me that the course isn't full. So like, what's going on? They basically came back with like loads of other courses that they could move me to, and I just didn't want to do it. I was over it at that point. I was like, I don't want to stay and do filmmaking. I can't get onto the course that I actually want to do. And whilst all of this was happening, I was also having a mental breakdown. I just remember posting a YouTube video because I documented like my entire university experience. When I say my entire, the whole 6 weeks that I was there, I documented that experience. And I remember having one evening where I just completely fell apart and I broke down. Can't remember exactly how I described it, but it was something along the lines of, there are so many people around me, but I have never felt so alone. And I just feel like that is the best way that I can describe it, because I had never felt so alone. I didn't feel like I fit in at uni in the sense of the people that I was surrounding myself with were so different to me. They all loved drinking, going out clubbing, going to the pub until ridiculous o'clock, going to loads of freshers events, and I just felt really trapped and I didn't want to do it. And I think that was also part of the reason that I was like, look, I've had enough. I don't want to do it. I just felt really lonely. I felt so alone and the environment just wasn't healthy for me. It was probably the saddest I've ever been, and also it was so far away from home. I'm like 3.5 hours away from Bristol, and as someone that is a proper home bird and just loves being at home, it was not an environment that I was ready to put myself into yet. About 4 weeks into uni, my parents came up for the weekend, which I really, really loved. It was so nice to see them. Also, let me just say that I had been home within like the first probably 2 weeks, and it was the worst decision that I ever could have made because I did not want to go back. But anyway, my parents came up and we basically just had this really long chat of what is keeping you at uni? That was the big question at the end of this really long discussion. What is keeping you here? Because you don't like your course. There is no point you spending money on accommodation and the course if you don't want to do what your course is teaching you. And I was like, wow, that is a really good question. And honestly, the only answer that I could come up with was my friends. And that, as much as I love them and they were great friends at the time, most of which I don't really speak to, but you know, they were my support system when I was at uni. As lovely as it was to have them, it's not a reason to stay at uni and pay $9,000 a year plus everything else that you have to pay for whilst you're there. Like it just wasn't a good enough reason for me to stay. So we made a few calls, and a week and a half, 2 weeks later, I was gone and never to be seen again. It's so weird because obviously looking back, I was not at uni for a long time, but at the same time, it feels like I was there for so long, so long. And I think because I was so unhappy there, it just felt like time dragged, which is really horrible, and I don't wish that upon anyone. It was the most like awful experience, like to feel like that. Something that I did do, however, was enroll for university the following year. So I guess I would have moved there in 2022 and I'd applied for media production, obviously got a place, blah, 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 blah. Shock horror, I didn't take the place. I did not end up going back to uni, and thank God I didn't. I think in this day and age, we are told from a very young age that you need to be in education for the longest time. Even in secondary school, they are prepping you for college are prepping you for uni, and you're just told that the right thing to do is to continue your education. But there are so many jobs and industries in this world that you do not need a degree for, and I feel like people don't talk about that enough. Most jobs in the creative space, I feel like you don't need a degree for. Obviously, if you want to go on to be a dentist or a surgeon, yes, you need to go to university for it, but it all depends on what you actually want to do with your life, because what I do now, I feel like I kind of fell into at like the perfect time, because I obviously left uni in like the October or November of 2021, I can't remember, and I was working full-time in the following April, so I feel like everything happened quite quickly. But you don't need a degree to do what I do. I work in influencer marketing. I also think that so many jobs nowadays, especially, you learn so much on the job. I learned 99.9% of what I do on a daily basis now through actually just doing it. I didn't have any proper professional experience. I came away from uni, obviously, that was it. I left uni in the October, like very, very end of October / early November. Within the first week that I was back home, I was emailing like influencer agencies, PR agencies, marketing agencies, talent agencies, just anyone that could help me get experience in an industry that I was actually really passionate about. Because tell me how I've been creating content since I was literally 10 / 11 years old, and from that, I thought that I wanted to do filmmaking. Why did I not think I want to do something to do with social media? Make it make sense. Like, that was not using big brain activity. That was very, very small brain activity. But I just emailed anyone and everyone to see if they would have me. And luckily, one company did come back and they were like, yep, we do an internship program which lasts for 3 months, I think. Maybe it was 2-3 months. These are the sort of things that you're going to be doing. Do you accept it? And I was like, absolutely, I do accept it. And bearing in mind, most internships are unpaid, which is really, really fun. But I wouldn't probably have got the job that I have now if I didn't do that internship. So yes, elements of internships are annoying and frustrating, but it's professional experience that is going to like catapult you into your industry and get you to where you want to be. So I did that for 2-3 months. I feel like I learned a bit, but like at the end of the day, it gave me like the experience on my CV to be able to get an entry-level job. And that's exactly what I got, an entry-level account assistant job at a boutique influencer marketing agency. And I've been working there for 3.5 years. I love my job. I've learned so much. I love the people that I work with. I just think that everything happens for a reason. If I stayed at uni, I 100% would not be doing what I'm doing now. So thank God I left uni, because I love what I do now. I feel like it's so right. It all kind of happened at the right time. And I think it's always nice to think that someone, i.e. like a company, sees your potential. You might not have all of the experience that someone that has a degree has or anything like that, but they saw my potential and they were like, yep, we're going to give her a shot. We think that she can grow in this industry, and that's what I'm doing. So it's a really, really nice feeling. When I left uni, I didn't know initially what I wanted to do, and that was scary because I'd previously worked for a couple of years at John Lewis at like a local store, and I think I just knew that I didn't want to go back to a job like that. I really wanted to start like progressing in an industry that I wanted to work in. I just didn't know what that industry was yet, and I think I just really trusted my gut with knowing that social media and marketing was the right industry. And it was, and it's ever growing and ever changing. It's very fast paced and it's a wild industry, but it's so fun and so interesting. I'd actually really recommend it. Like, the whole industry is like so wild, but it's so fun. I've definitely learned some things since leaving uni, and that whole experience just taught me so much about myself, which is a great thing. I think that sometimes these experiences that kind of throw you off your path need to happen for you to realise what you actually need to be doing with your life. The traditional path is only one path. There are so many paths that you can take, and just because your education system is telling you that you need to go to university and you need to continue your education does not mean that you have to. The education world is not for everyone. It's really not. I feel like it's actually for less people than it is for people. Was that English? It fits less people than it does more. I feel like I'm not even speaking English. I think as well that if you leave uni because you don't think that it's right for you at that time, you can always go back later. If you decide 2 years later that actually, I really know what I want to do now, I've done so much more research into it, you can go back. Who's stopping you? We're told that you go to university from when you're 18 to 21. You don't hear a lot of people going to uni when they're 25. 29, in their 30s. You just don't really hear it because it's not spoken about. But just because something isn't right for you at 18 doesn't mean that it's not going to be right for you when you're in your 20s or your 30s or your 40s. There is no way that if I didn't go to uni, I would have got my job now. It's all about timing. In my opinion, everything happens for a reason. And also the last thing that I have really learned is that dropping out does not define you. There's such a stigma around dropping out of uni. It's like, well, you couldn't handle it. No, I just didn't enjoy it. It wasn't my sort of environment. I didn't enjoy my course. It's not what I wanted to do with my life. And actually, I'm doing really well at the moment. I love my job. I love where I'm at. I have professional experience and have had it for 3.5 years, and I'm 22. I think I'm doing all right. I guess looking back, dropping out of uni wasn't the end of something. It was actually the beginning of my career and the beginning of me really understanding what I wanted to do with my life. It was a really funny way to get there. But we did get there. The best decision that I have ever made was trusting that little voice in my head that said, this is not right, you can do better, and there is something out there for you that is better. If you have ever left something that you knew wasn't right, whether that's a job, a relationship, a course, university, college, whatever it is, I would love to hear your story. I think that hearing other people's stories will give some people that are listening to this that are maybe unsure of their path a little hope that there are other options out there that are not part of the traditional route, but are still absolutely acceptable and are paths that will lead you to where you want to be. I think that I am going to wrap this one up. I just wanted to basically do a chit-chatty episode where I talk about my experience with university and how it didn't really go the way that I thought that it was going to be, but it's led me to somewhere where I'm really, really happy, and the path that I've taken feels so good. It's the right path, and I'm just really, really happy with where I'm at. If you enjoyed this episode, then make sure to give it a big thumbs up. If you are watching on YouTube, leave a review or a rating, whichever is easier for you, but both of them do really, really help. Definitely subscribe if you haven't already. We have a lot of these open and honest conversations. If you found this somewhat helpful in any way, shape or form, please do let me know because it means a lot. If you're interested in seeing some more bits day to day about the podcast, then you can drop us a follow over on Instagram and TikTok at Lowkey Adulting Pod. We have new episodes coming your way every single Monday at 8 a.m. Thank you so much for listening. I will see you very soon with a brand new episode. Bye for now.